From the time of the Big Bang and the formation of stars and galaxies to the appearance of life, from the first signs of consciousness in artwork to the development of the latest scientific theory, one principle has been constantly at work, shaping and transforming the universe. This principle is ever unfolding and uncovering new and more complex forms and dimensions. Religious people called it the right hand of God. Medieval alchemists called it Principus Creativus. Laymen called it the power of creativity. Join world-renowned artists and scientists, philosophers, Nobel Prize winners, theologians, shamans, and indigenous healers, and hear them explain the story of creativity.
What are the first signs of human creativity?
We are indeed sentenced by our nature to create.
Creative process is a spiritual journey for people.
I mean, if you think of creativity as a natural resource, then we can look at, okay, well, where are we using up creativity?
What are the phases of the creative process, and how do new perceptions uncover new meaning?
What do we mean by intuition, and what do we mean by inspiration?
The act of creation is valued in both art and science when it is accompanied by a certain intensity of statement, an economy.
When you're emotionally involved, that's when you're actually learning something. When you're actually engaged mentally, emotionally, physically, sensually, then you are involved in the creative process.
How did creativity shape us to become what we are? What is a creative quantum leap?
Human creativity is always seen as being on a somewhat lower scale than that of nature.
One of the most amazing magical phenomenons we have in our lives as human beings is this shared experience of creativity in the moment.
What is pulling the strings of people's actions?
You know, when our hearts aren't satisfied, when we're not creating, when we're not letting our spirit soar, then we find really nasty ways to let that out.
In other cultures, where spirituality, where religion is much more streamlined and integrated with all of life, there are no neurotic artists.
So you have these two neuroses going on at the level of religion on the one hand and the level of science, and that's terribly destructive for the human enterprise.
In what fields can we utilize creativity?
The relationship between the therapist and the patient, that the best word to characterize those outcomes that were good, where the patient showed a marked improvement, were creative.
So one of the very interesting connections between creativity and authoritarianism is if you look and compare the characteristics of the creative person and the authoritarian person. Creative person scores high on measures like independence of judgment, complexity of outlook, androgyny, and tolerance for ambiguity is another big one. So if you look at the authoritarian personality, you find intolerance for ambiguity.
So we're no longer predators, we're now parasites. But now we've reached another level where we can affect the surface of the earth, climate, its resources, its ability to sustain itself, and we've shaded into becoming a pathogen.
What is the only hope for mankind to survive?
Creativity powerfully brings through that understanding of cosmological interconnectivity, which we have now in new physics, which everything exists because of everything else.
The evolution of all life forms seems to have been for the greater appreciation of higher dimensions.
What are the obstacles to creativity, and how can it be unleashed? How does the creative act transform consciousness? Is creativity reserved for chosen people, or is there a genius hiding within each of us? Take the journey and find out the answers you always wanted to know.